Welcome to the first episode of Stephanie's podcast. Okay. Today I have Aaliyah and Mr. Olds at Irving High School. And our topic for our first episode will be relationships. You know, totally not controversial.
Totally not controversial at all.
No, okay. All right. You know,
Relationships. Everyone has
relationship-
one.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. When it comes to like nowadays, relationships are different from like way back then. Cause I feel like it was so much more simpler back then. You didn't have to worry about online things, and like what people are saying behind your back. Cause I feel like it was more upfront and more serious back then than rather now.
I agree in many ways because most relationships were face to face. Because there are some people who had a long distance relationship where they talked on the phone a lot, or they even wrote letters to each other. But typically, they would eventually travel to see each other, or they were living in the same towns, living in the same neighborhood, or even living in the same house. So, what you mentioned about today's relationships, because everything is online, there's a lot of digital criminality. People are getting catfished, right? Thinking that they're in real relationships, and they're really not. They're in a relationship with some made-up character that's online.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 'cause-
Actually, speaking on that, I've literally had that experience before.
Really?
Yeah,
You've
full
been
on.
catfished?
I've been catfished. Not that I've met the person in real life, but I almost did. But the thing is, it was so bad that I didn't realize at the time. Because I was like 9. And I was online. I don't know why I had a phone at that time. Kids should not be allowed with phones. I was 9, and I think I got on Omegle.
Oh.
I got an Omegle on my phone, and I ended up talking to like a stranger, and I guess he was nice to me, and I ended up falling into the trap like immediately. So I gave him like my information and like my Snapchat, and I ended up, messaging him, and he messaged back, and turned out apparently he lived like in Houston or something. And I was like, oh, it's long distance, it should be fine. But never did I get into the aspect of like age and like who they actually were until like the very end of it when I almost met up with the person.
Right, and that's dangerous. And then, from your vantage point, Stephanie, you're fortunate in the sense of it didn't get carried as far as some of these relationships get carried. People are getting trafficked, people are getting killed, or they're becoming, emotionally traumatized by the aspect of a relationship. Because a lot of times, and I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but a lot of times females get attached to these relationships, and when they find out that it's not real, that can be emotionally damaging.
Mm-hmm. Also, I feel like, and like not to be, how do I put it? How do I put it? Because I don't want to just talk about like mostly predators being males, but it's like on both ends. Because I heard something a few years back where it's like more men get like sexually abused and things like that.
Yeah.
Rather than women.
And the reason why it's not talked about as much is because of the stigma associated with being abused from a male standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Because you feel far less than a man when you've been violated in that manner. So most men are less likely to even verbalize that or even share that with anyone, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not talked about as much, and especially when you talk about things like the boys' clubs, the Boy Scouts, mentoring, and all of those one-to-one programs where people have quote unquote relationships, and it's not a relationship that we're talking about from an intimate standpoint, but it is a relationship that you have with a person that you're trying to build a friendship, build a mentorship, and build a trust, right? And when that trust is undermined, it could be emotionally devastating.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I feel like it's crazy to me when it comes to situations like that, especially with like a mentor or like a teacher and a student. Like, how does that even happen?
It's because someone It gets way too comfortable, right? And there's nothing wrong with teachers and students having a relationship, right, that goes to the point where they foster educational opportunities, they foster financial opportunities that allow the student to grow, right? But once you betray their trust, then it's no longer anything that should be allowed or acceptable, right? Because I can talk to mentees that I've had for years, right? Starting when they were in the sixth grade. But we only talked about their educational opportunities. We talked about their future desires and things of that nature, and never did it cross any lines that would make the student or myself uncomfortable, right? But some people don't have the best interests of individuals in mind.
Mm-hmm. Going back to relationships, because I feel like we got a bit off track
Yeah,
here.
we did get a little bit off track, but
Yeah.
but I think it's something to be said about that, right? Because most people don't think that students and teachers have relationships, but we do. But it's more so as a mentor, more as a leader, more as a guide, and more as an encourager for your future endeavors.
What if like a student sees a teacher like as a parent-like figure?
I think I've been in that role for the vast majority of my educational career because I don't have any kids of my own. So I actually consider myself a father figure, uncle, big brother, whatever the kids would refer to me as. And I use my role as disciplinarian, encourager, nurturer, and support, right? Just like a parent would be to their own kids.
Yeah. I feel like we always need somebody in our life like that.
Absolutely.
That's not an actual parent.
Absolutely, and you need to have an additional voice of support, right? Because sometimes parents may or may not get off track, right? Because parents are just kids who grew up, and sometimes they may be even the hater in the household, right? So you need that teacher, that guidance counselor, that administrator as the additional support group, so we can reinforce and re-encourage, or reinforce and encourage you to become, you know, your best self.
Isn't that crazy though? Like your own parent not being there for you. Like within that relationship, shouldn't it be like the best kind of relationship?
It's supposed to be, but life is hard, right?
Yeah.
Life is difficult, and just alluding to what I just mentioned, parents being haters, and not all parents are haters, right? But some of them may not have achieved all the things that they wanted to achieve in life. And some of it may have been because they had you as a child. And then when they see that you are succeeding or see that you are maximizing your potential, there's a little bit of jealousy that comes into play.
I don't understand it though. Like it's your own child. Why would you implement such feelings on them and like make them feel that bad of themselves that they seek other people for that kind of like nurture?
Yeah. Well, I think many parents try to live vicariously through their children, whether it be educationally, athletically, or even financially, right? But at the moment when they see their child exceeding what they've done in their own lives, then the natural tendency is for people to be a little bit jealous, and the green-eyed monster, which is envy, right? It kind of creeps up on us all, and it's up to the mature, stable individual, to push it down and kind of eliminate that aspect, and then to continue to support your child, because you want the best for your child at all times. But if you're honest with yourself, you know that sometimes if you're doing much better than your parents per se, they're going to be a little bit envious of your success.
Speaking of envy, oh my god, okay. Backtracking to like regular relationships,
Mm-hmm.
Envy and jealousy. Why does it happen so often? Why do people get so jealous, and even for the littlest things? I don't get it.
I had that, and it sucked. I hated that experience because I was a jealous person too, but it wasn't that bad. I would want to hang out with, because we had like a little group thing, and I started dating one of my best friends, and um, all I wanted to do was hang out with my other best friend, but no, she wanted to get jealous because she felt left out, which I get that, but still, she got jealous over every little thing that we did. We take a picture, she's like, "Wow, you did that without me? We could have done that together." I'm just like, "What? Okay." And we had arguments like almost every day until at one point, I forgot. I'm blank. Um, we got in this huge argument all because of the certain group, which was y'all. Uh,
Oh yeah.
she got so jealous of y'all. I don't know why. It was mostly because she thought that, you know,
Oh
y'all were talking a whole
yeah.
bunch of stuff, but now I feel like she was lying about that because they don't really
No, they've
remember that.
never even. They didn't even know of her.
I
Literally
know.
until she texted them. So it's like very confusing.
Yeah, a lot of times that's insecurity, right? If you're not comfortable, 100% comfortable in your own skin, and most people are not per se, right? Then you're going to always perceive people to be quote unquote talking about you. Which once you become really, really comfortable in your own skin, you don't even care anyway. They can talk about you and you're not even phased by it.
I don't even care what people say about me. They,
You shouldn't be.
because it would be elementary. I looked like a boy, and I looked like a whole man. And there would be these girls that were like, "You look like a boy. Why do you dress like that?" I'm like, "Cause I can't. What do you want from me?" And I got bullied once, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but that's one of the things you wanted to make sure of, especially when you enter into a relationship with someone. If they take you away from your friends, then that relationship might not be healthy.
Yeah, it's like an instant red flag.
Like I couldn't even do anything fun.
You don't
I couldn't do after school
necessarily
stuff.
have to hold yourself back because of a person. You know what I mean?
I
I
know.
had the same issue. It's like a different relationship. Literally, it was so toxic. I couldn't like hang around my best friend because she'd be like, "Why are you with her? Why are you doing more things with her than you are with me?" You know, and
'Cause
it's
that's my
like
best friend.
she would make a whole deal about it, and like it would be the worst arguments. It would be just the smallest thing. Like I hated it. I really did.
So did I.
The rumors and everything.
Yeah,
along with it.
toxicity. Toxicity is the biggest red flag in any relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it is bad, right, and you're constantly arguing about things that you would perceive to be little stuff, right? That's when you should be the beginning of the end for you, and you should start looking elsewhere, right? Because that should tell you that something's not right. We're barely started in a relationship. Now it's time for us to move forward and making it grow. And then there's still these small arguments about small things. That's when it's like, this may not be the best thing for me.
No, yeah.
I knew it wasn't gonna last, cause we would always talk about the future and stuff. But I'm just thinking to myself, it's not gonna last anyway.
And for you guys, you should go into it with the expectation that it's not going to last because you're still young. You'll be in many more relationships, right? As you grow older and until you get to the one that really makes the most sense to you, the one that you're grounded in, the one that you are the most excited about. And it rarely ever happens in high school. Rarely.
Yeah. No, I feel like going into a relationship, you shouldn't think about future plans with them, but rather like the present.
The moment. Enjoy the moment.
Yeah,
Right?
literally.
Yeah, I know that. It was just like the fun kind of stuff, and she was female, so I was also kind of iffy because I feel like women are so much harder.
They really are. I feel like queer couples are perceived as like really easy relationships and things like that, but they're so much more complicated.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Literally.
Greater than the quote unquote traditional relationship.
Yeah.
In what way is that? Because I'm not familiar,
No.
and I'm not one of these people who go around thumping the Bible and saying that a man should be in a relationship with a woman. I would much rather you be in a relationship with someone you love and care about, that is good to you and good for you, than to be with some dude who's dogging you or making you feel less than who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I saw myself with a man. But it's crazy. I'm scared of men. Like, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
That's any relationship, right? So it's not just men. Men are
Yeah.
men are different, and I'll say men are crazy because they are. I've lived my whole life as a man, so I recognize that. But women, by the same token, in a relationship, you carry the same burdens, the same responsibilities and obligations. So in that relationship, you'll be the same as a man, even though you may be in a relationship with a woman, right?
Life is like a box
The
of chocolates.
You never know what you're gonna get. Oh man.
So you guys watch
Yep.
Forrest Gump too?
Yeah.
I love Forrest Gump, one of my
Such a
favorite
good movie.
movies.
I've only seen that 10 or 12 times. Every time I pass it on television, I watch it from wherever it is at that
Yeah.
moment.
I love that movie. My mom introduced me to that movie, and I was like, this is pretty good. It's one of my favorite movies now.
And that movie's about relationships, right?
Yeah.
About Forrest Gump chasing Jenny, right?
She was terrible.
She was horrible, right? She was horrible. And I hate the fact that, she got cancer and died, right? But Forrest loved her unconditionally. She just didn't love him the same way.
Run, Forrest, run.
And that's a lot of times that's what happens in real life relationships too, right?
Yeah,
One person is committed, 100% committed, and the other person is just
A little iffy.
a little iffy, right? I don't know, or
That was
I
kind
think
of
we should be friends. And that's what
Yeah.
that's how Jenny treated Forrest, right? Because in reality, Jenny had high goals and aspirations, and she wanted more for her life. And she really didn't think Forrest was good enough for her, even though she liked him as a friend.
That was exactly my relationship.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. So many relationships are like that. It's
I know. And it's kind of the relationships now, like you said, in this generation, they're all so weird and so dumb, honestly, because of the people. I liked the way people did it back in the day, old school. I loved old school because I saw this one TikTok. There was this guy texting his girlfriend, and she was like, text me when you're here and I'll come to the truck. And he had flowers, and he went to the door. And I was like, why can't I have that? Let me have that.
Yeah, romance is dead, right?
Yeah.
In many ways,
Yeah.
because everything is so instantaneous, right? With the 21st century, everything has to be now, instead of building upon what you're trying to accomplish, right? Because it's never going to happen in a short amount of time. You're going to have your ups and downs, your ebbs and flows in any relationship, right? And now, once things get hard, most people just bail, right? They just quit on it rather than working through that tumultuous time, and which makes the end result that much more exciting.
Oh man. This was interesting. Oh God. We really wow. All right.
We turned a few corners with this
Yeah.
conversation, didn't we?
Yeah, we really did.
But that's kind of indicative of relationships, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna turn a lot of corners. You're gonna have a bunch of rocky roads, and just like in Robert Frost's poem, "The Road Not Taken," at some point in time, you're gonna try to figure out what road to take, right? And it may be the road less traveled, but if it's the one that works for you in your relationship, then I think that's the one you should take.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Round of applause.
Yep. And on that note, the next episode, for sure. I feel like we should talk about like movies. Cause since we got into the whole topic of Forrest Gump.
Yeah, Forrest Gump just brought up
You're welcome.
all the
Yeah.
things about all the movies, and we can touch on some other topic that we may be interested in.
All right. Well,
Do your outro.
yeah. This is the conclusion to the very first episode of my podcast. Thank you, Aaliyah and Mr. Olds, for being my guest.
My pleasure. I look forward to the next episode.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
I'll be in the next episode.
Yep. Signing off.
Adios.